The Uggs Tasman is basically this decade's version of the legging-wearing, scarf-donning, vanilla latte drinking Uggs of the 2010s. Something's changed with Uggs, and it honestly really shocked me because this shoe is not what it seems from the outside. And I think Uggs is pulling the wool over people's eyes. So we're gonna cut this thing in half, run it through our test to really see if Uggs are worth it. Are the Tasmans as good as the regular Uggs? And what is this sneaky little thing that Ugg did that you should know about before buying a pair of Ugg Tasmans? And we've covered Uggs quite a bit on the channel. You know, we did their regular Uggs a couple times. We did the real Uggs from Australia that the American Uggs pushed out of the market and stole their name. And we have a video coming up that's a bunch of Ugg alternatives. And if you're a dude watching this, go watch our video on mugs because I collaborated with Goral, one of the best shoemakers in all of England, on a pair of manly Uggs mugs. And this year we're actually doing a really small batch of these. We took this idea, we're like, how do we make that better? How do we make it more like a manly shoe? Look at this thing. Guess what we called it? You know, we got the mugs, we got the smugs, slugs. And we've come with a new outsole option for the mugs too. And these smugs are super limited quantities. We just want to do this almost as like just a proof of concept. We want to just try it. So get on the email list, you know, so you get early access. You have all the information you need leading up to the launch of the products on the 22nd. Shameless plug over. You know, that's how we pay for the videos. But the reason I bring all that up and why we work with Goral on so many mugs, slugs, and stugs and all these different shearling line things is because wool is one of the coolest materials that nature's ever created. It's been slowly optimized over millions and millions of years to become the perfect fiber that covers the flesh of an animal to keep them warm in the winter, cool in the summer, water resistant, static free. It doesn't feel wet until it's absorbed 30% of its weight in water. It has one of nature's best conditioners called lanolin. It's extremely durable even though it has tiny little fibers. So I geek out hard with wool in the same way I geek out about leather because it's kind of scratching the same itch. But unlike leather, there's just not a lot of information on the internet. There's not a lot of people keeping these wool-centered brands accountable, and that's what we're trying to do because there's something weird about this shearling. So what is this shoe? Well, the brand is Ugg, the Decker-owned one. The style is a Tasman slipper. They weigh 10 ounces. They retail for $110. They're made in Vietnam, and the way that they position this product is the Tasman is a longtime fan favorite that continuously gets rediscovered generation after generation due to its ultra lightweight, durable outsole, plush wool lining, and suede uppers. It goes with anything and has an easy slip-on silhouette that will stay timeless forever. And if you want a pair of these, check them out. The links in my description, and all the other videos and other Ugg and mug and slug content is all in the description. So now I'll start going through this material and really try to figure out what Ugg has done. It's kind of shady, kind of lying to their customers. It feels really off for a shearling-based company. Well, starting with the upper, they say this is a suede upper, which is really odd for a shearling shoe because suede is cut from that lower cross-section of leather, whereas shearling is obviously at the top part of the cross-section where it's the actual outer flesh of the animal, where all those wool fibers and the hair is in the actual leather itself. So shearling has to inherently be at that top portion of the cross-section. And so suede is really odd. It doesn't make any sense, which was the first big red flag because all their listings that use shearling, they say twin face sheepskin upper, which is a more correct term, and not suede. So if we just look at this upper leather, we put the macro lens on it, it really is a true suede. We did the burn test on it, it's real leather, it burns like leather, and there's really no spot to see the cross-section. They've done a good job of using this binding to hide anything. And even all the way down to the sole where you might be able to see the edge, they have this edge binding around it that's used to glue on this EVA outsole, and it's the sugarcane outsole. So what is sugarcane EVA? So contrary to the conventional EVA rubber outsole, sugarcane-based EVA is reusable and compostable, or at least industrial compost. And so it is cool to see them working towards sustainability with the outsoles and the Ugg braid. It's made of 100% recycled polyester fibers, and even the binding itself that we just talked about is recycled polyester. But to me, there's this weird tipping point, this point of diminishing returns with sustainable products, because when a product's quality and durability starts to suffer because of some of these eco-friendly initiatives, it starts to become similar to, in the wise words of Obi-Wan Kenobi, you become the very thing you swore to destroy. So by making them less durable, more synthetic materials, you're gonna end up with more of these in the landfill more often. So in a way, they just are kind of delaying the pollution that is caused by using synthetic materials. But what has actually been changed in this shoe to be more eco-friendly at the expense of the quality and the end consumer? Well, one thing that makes the shoe what it is the wool. And so you'd assume, you know, Uggs, it's wool, it's shearling, it's what they do. Well, even though this looks like shearling, it's not. They've replaced this wonder material, this wonder fiber that's leather and wool all combined in one with 40% Tencel lyocell blend. So there is still technically wool in it, and to their credit, Tencel isn't a full petroleum-based or plastic material. Lyocell is a form of rayon, and it's composed of primary cellulose derived from wood. So not made of plastic, but the process to make this material involves a lot of synthetic chemicals, but also leather does too, especially with the chrome tan leathers. So yeah, it's a confusing argument. There's arguments one way or the other. You could be on one side versus the other, both sides. Everyone assumes that wool is really, really hot and doesn't breathe really well. But wool is hygroscopic, which I don't know if I'm saying that right.
Hygroscopic.
You probably don't know what it means because I didn't, but it means the ability to absorb moisture. And in warm and dry environments, during activity and exercise, wool keeps you cooler by transporting that moisture and vapor that's around your foot into the wool, allowing it to dissipate so you don't have as much wet moisture on the inside of your foot. And that's why some of the highest quality hunting gear is wool, because of that thermal regulating, that universal use. And on the flip side, wool also keeps you really warm, and it's really thermal regulating, so it allows you to be able to wear them in more slightly warm conditions, but that natural crimp in that wool insulating your skin from the cold environment and keeping as much of your foot heat in there as possible. And like I previously mentioned, actual real shearling like this, the hair follicles are still attached to the pores of the leather. So that's why if I take this slug insole, you see I can grip a big old chunk of this and I can try to rip it out. You know, there's a few hairs there versus this, You see, that's because real wool isn't glued in, it's not weaved in, it's still in the pores of the leather. It's about as strong as of a way to have a really, really tiny fiber that you almost can't hardly feel attached to a material is just leaving it in the leather, which grew out of the leather. And one thing that's actually pretty crazy is wool is surprisingly fire resistant because it has that really high nitrogen content, has that lanolin, and it has a higher ignition threshold than a lot of the other fibers out there. It's just to kind of show you, it burns, but it's pretty self-extinguishing. The flame's going up and it won't light versus. So these fibers, half of these fibers are little wood fibers. And this shocked everyone when we did this test. Like, look at this. That stuff lights up like it burned my thumb. And so you get all the stink of burning wool, but it just lights up like a Christmas tree. And it's not like anyone's really buying these for any kind of flame resistance, but I just thought it was a really interesting thing to show that by just adding a little bit of that wood-based fiber, it completely changes the properties of wool. So now let's cut this shoe in half and see if there's any real shearling on the inside, how they've made this kind of fake wool blend shearling with suede on the outside so convincing that the vast majority of people that buy these are assuming that this is just a typical Ugg that's real shearling, because that's what Uggs do. So let's cut them in half. All right, we got them cut in half, and if you're not subscribed, consider doing it. It's just one little click. It helps us out a lot. We're trying to get to that 1 million subscriber mark, and it's what allows us to pay for all these brand new products just to cut apart like 2 or 3 times a week. So let's see what's inside. So now we can really see how they made this look like real shearling and how they attached those wool and fake wool fibers. It's literally just glued to just a material, a little fabric behind it. It doesn't seem like it's weaved in any way. And the result of that is like I can just pull out big chunks of this, which if I can do this by hand, imagine wearing these for several hundred days. It's just a matter of time before you wear through this or it starts flaking off in all your socks, becomes a complete disaster. And honestly, more importantly, you can see how much less dense the fiber structure is and how much more little teeny fibers and like that true wool density that you can only get from wool because it's growing out of the animal's flesh. But everything else is pretty standard for Uggs. It's basically the same construction as their full Uggs, just missing maybe one little layer of fiberboard. So now to the questions we posed at the beginning. Are the Tasmans as good as the regular Uggs? Nope, because regular Uggs for now still use real shearling. Are they being malicious, trying to screw over the consumer? I don't think so, or at least I hope not. But it seems like they're pretty real about them trying to be eco-friendly, and these initiatives are actually making change, but at what cost? Because the cost in this product, it's not like they're discounted it, it's still $110. So the cost is paid by the people that actually buy these. And when these big brands start to put their profits and their initiatives before the consumer, it's just a recipe for disaster. And footwear is just one of those products where it's really impossible to know how it's all built, what's on the inside, what materials are used until you literally cut it in half. So is it at least less cruel? Well, they're still using leather, so like what's the difference? Lambs are cuter, but it's still an animal's flesh wrapped around your foot. And so is it less cruel? Not really. So now that we know all that and all these little sneaky things that they've done, should you avoid buying them? Well, most people are using these for just casual use, where they're not gonna really care about all these really cool benefits of wool, shearling, and all this stuff. But for me, if I bought these thinking that it was actually real shearling, I'd be super upset. I'd feel a little bit lied and cheated, and just because it's UGG. You make shearling shoes, and when you make it look like shearling, you kind of put it in the description just slightly, it feels really dishonest to me. And like they said, this product has been loved for decades, and yet now they're starting to shade away from it, removing the things that people love most about this. And it's unfortunate because the UGG brand was built off of making high quality shearling products, and they basically stole the whole UGG concept from the real brands of Uggs in Australia and completely kept them out of the market, litigations, lawsuits. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if they got rid of all shearling in all their products, because we've seen this before in other brands with other materials, and it's not the first time that a brand has shot itself in the foot because their heads were so far up in the clouds that they can't even see the people that are buying their products, supporting the brand, and the people that built the entire brand. And so let me know what you think. Am I going a little too harsh on UGG? To me, it just feels wrong to do this. And so I don't really know. It doesn't make any sense to me. So let me know what you think. But as far as I'm concerned, UGG should be embarrassed of this. You're UGG. You make shearling shoes. Make them. So let me know what you think. Thanks for all your support. And if you want more UGG content, we'll put everything below. Get ready for the Slug launch. Get ready for the Mug 2 relaunch with a new outsole, August 22nd. So get on a limited edition email list so you get early access, all the sizing information, and so you can actually get a real shearling shoe, because it seems like the shearling brands are leaving it behind. So thank you guys. See ya. What? Okay.